Hello and welcome to the Great Minds Together podcast,
where we explore neurodiversity, mental health, inclusive practice and the lived experiences that drive positive change.
Each episode we speak with inspiring young people, parents, professionals and change makers who are shaping the world of neurodiversity, SEND policies and everything in between.
Whether you're a parent, practitioner, young person or simply passionate about inclusion,
you're in the right place.
So, with that being said,
let's get into today's conversation.
I think we are season 6, episode 1, January 2026. Yay! January! So yeah, Happy New Year to everyone and welcome back to our podcast. So this is the first one of 2026 and we've got the lovely Jinny today.
I mean, you've got starters you mean to go
Absolutely.
on. Absolutely.
Thank you for joining me today. We've got the same fidgets.
I do.
So yesterday you came in with a lovely box of fidgets and I was like, ooh, shiny things.
You
What's
did
that?
just rob it though.
Well, I don't know if rubbed it is the right word. I think you kindly
I
gave
think how it went was...
Go on then. How did it go?
Where are the other 4? I said downstairs. She went, go and get them then. So I was like, okay. So off I toddled downstairs, came back up and you were like, thank you. And then she was like, thanks for the fidgets. I was like,
brilliant.
Okay.
They're magnetic and they're just, I just love them.
They're good, aren't they?
So yeah, we're both. But the only problem with them is when you drop them, they scatter.
Yeah.
Which I've learned a few times because I'm a bit clumsy and I've dropped them a few times. So.
Yeah, and when you're in a meeting, then you have to leave it. But then because it's on the floor, you're like, I really need to get it. But then I can't get it.
But thank you very much. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome.
You've done the podcast before, actually, haven't you?
A long time ago.
And you've got a different role right now from when you did the podcast last time. So maybe that's a place to start.
It's evolved a little bit. So I started as a family wraparound.
Yeah.
Then I became a case holding supervisor. And then we set up our intensive support team up here in Manchester. So I managed that. And then I went to ops manager for outreach. And
so if you need to do a CV, just watch this back and you can...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I will. And then I was then an advisor to support the practitioners. And now I'm intensive support manager for the intensive support team.
Amazing.
So that covers sort of down south.
So when you say down south, just explain what that means because not everybody might know what we're doing down there.
So we support families sort of across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. So it's that sort of covers Southampton as well. So we work with young people and adults now up to the age of 30 who are on the dynamic support register. So for short, it's DSR.
We're going to come back to that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And all of the young people and adults on the register are either autistic or have a learning disability.
Okay. So does your job now involve? I guess it's travel.
Yeah,
down there.
Yeah. So a lot of it is sort of virtual.
Okay.
But we do go down at least once a month to go and visit.
And there's a team down there as well, isn't there?
There is, yes. So there's a brilliant team of practitioners and head of service and a manager and assistant manager all sort of down south. And then we have the same sort of setup over here in Manchester, but we sort of try and enforce that cross working and ensuring that we're all sort of supporting and learning from each other as well.
There's so much to learn from one another because we've all got such, varied backgrounds and skills and experiences. And I think that's what I've always really enjoyed about working at GMT is the vast, the huge variety of individuals that we are lucky to work with every day. So I guess your day-to-day kind of work life looks really different every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things can change quite quickly. Some days can be a lot more structured than others, I suppose.
Is that like when you've got meetings planned and things?
Yeah, so a lot of meetings. But again, like I think I mentioned before to you, didn't I, that I joined a meeting and it was like done within 5 minutes. So then you've booked out your hour. So then when you have that time back, it's great because then you can catch up on sort of paperwork and things like that. But yeah, so our sort of days may look like joining sort of various different meetings, whether that is EHCP meetings, ward rounds a lot for young people and adults who are within an inpatient setting, which we then try and support to have a safe and effective discharge to prevent them to be readmitted.
So I bet not many people realise that actually that is part of what we do, actually working with people who are inpatient.
Yeah, so we as an organisation obviously exist to try and prevent hospitalisation and sort of wrongful criminalisation. But I think as well, sometimes I've seen it with some of my cases, sometimes that decision can be taken away from us in terms of, for health reasons rather than mental health reasons, they need to be admitted for their health.
But that doesn't mean our support stops.
No, absolutely not. We would go and visit that young person or adult within the hospital setting, attend all the meetings surrounding that young person. And I think what's really useful and helpful for that person is that sometimes the settings are they're very clinical.
Yeah.
And it can be really distressing for autistic people.
Quite scary, I imagine.
Yeah, for neurodiverse people. And they often feel quite contained. And I suppose that is how they're set up. And that's not something that can be changed, but we can change how the staff are responding to the young person or adult, adaptations to be made. So in terms of if they don't feel confident enough to go and ask to go out on grounds leave, or if they don't feel like they can be included in something because it's that fear and of stepping out of their room and their comfort zone. So having us to be able to sort of speak and ensure that their voice is being heard, it helps to build that sort of robust sort of care plan around them to help it be more manageable within the setting. We support a lot of young people and adults who struggle with sort of eating disorders as well, and a lot of the time there is links to sort of sensory needs and obviously like ARFID and the sort of the argument between an eating diagnosis and ARFID. And we sort of then pull it all together to try and adapt how some of these hospitals work. So in terms of like the sensory needs with the food and things like that, and trying to enforce that different approach for them.
Do you find the staff that you're working with in these settings are kind of open to understanding, or, you know, trying to understand things from a different perspective? Because it sounds like what we're doing as a team is kind of going in and asking those questions. Well, have you considered this, or could it be this, or is there some unmet need potentially? Do you find that those are easy conversations to have, or
I think it depends. I think sometimes it's easier than others, but I think a lot of the time systems are sort of stuck in their ways,
and those staff are stuck in the systems almost, aren't they?
Yeah. So it's that sort of fixed mindset of, no, this is how we work, and these are the rules that we have to follow, which means then that young person or adult has to follow those rules. So us coming in and sort of breaking down all of those barriers, it can take time sometimes, and it can be, you know, that real positive and professional sort of, what's the word?
Like a relationship, like a working relationship.
Challenge. So it's that positive,
like that professional challenge.
But then they often can then see it in a different sort of view. And that's when we sort of look at like the holistic needs of that individual. And then with them being on board, it then shows that it works. It works, but that everybody surrounding them, into, you know, sort of in a professional capacity, is supportive and understanding and hearing what they're saying. And then that's when we see that sort of progression, because they're like, yeah, well, actually people are understanding me. And I think we do that really well as an organisation, is ensuring that those professionals around are working collaboratively to ensure that that person is in the centre of all decisions being made.
That is, you're right. I think that's where we really, it's one of our strengths as a, you know, as an organisation, is we go in and just pull things together and coordinate. And it's about upskilling professionals as well, isn't it, around that young person? And sometimes that can be challenging, and having those professional challenging conversations can be challenging in themselves. But actually, it works. We really know it works.
I do think, since maybe we've just seen a different sort of approach, but I do think since I began within GMT, like, what's that, 3 years ago, I do feel that a lot of people are now using the therapeutic approach a lot more than they used to.
Because that's at the heart of everything that we do, isn't it? The therapeutic
and I do
approach,
think it's more sort of pull through in their work as well. So people understand it.
Yeah.
They just sometimes don't understand it for the needs of that person. So it's then, like you say, it's upskilling them to meet the needs of that individual.
I've had some really interesting conversations about work you're doing in many different areas. Some of the things I'd like to touch on today. So one of them is DSR, because you delivered some brilliant training to the staff team not so long ago, actually, around DSR. So we'll come back to that in a minute. But I'd really like you to just tell us a little bit about the work, the really exciting work that I think you do in the criminal justice system with police and things, because I think it's really brilliant what you're doing. Do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think my role within the criminal justice system, I think that began sort of a year sort of ago when we had some really positive results for a young person that was going through the criminal justice system. And we were able to ensure that the court process was able to meet their needs. So in terms of like, we managed for the court to agree to open up a separate courtroom that was empty so that it wasn't noisy and they weren't being interrupted.
So this was a neurodivergent individual who'd found themselves in this kind of, in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, so we try, on court day, it's very overwhelming. It's very like fast paced. People are in, out. It's loud and it's scary. It's super, super
scary for an adult, never mind a young person.
So just having those adaptions and working with the courts to ensure that those needs are met was really beneficial, and it helped ease that anxiety as well. But also we worked with the solicitors as well in terms of helping them to understand it from a neurodiverse point of view rather than it being from a criminal point of view, I suppose.
Changing that narrative.
That was difficult to begin with, but actually it worked really, really well. And that partnership was good as well. And we managed to produce sort of communication reports and various different things so that then helped within the courtroom, and it almost upskilled the judge to then support that young person within the courtroom.
So an example of that might be, this is how best to communicate with me. So don't use too much language, don't speak too fast. We processing time, and what that actually enables the situation to kind of be is more accessible for everyone, and actually the outcomes are going to be better, aren't they, if everyone kind of understands things.
And in terms of like asking if they understand, because a lot of the wording that they use, even I'm like, I don't know what you're on about, but changing that language and reframing that and asking, do you understand
that?
And that only happened because we produced the report sort of going forward and that sort of communication passport, and also allowing them to have fidgets within the courtroom, like things.
We use them.
It's tiny things.
Just these minor adjustments
to be, to the judge, but to that young person, it's a massive support for them. So that's where it all began, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then people that know me, I have a bit of a love for anything to do with the police.
Okay.
So it's always been my thing, and I love it. In another world, I'd probably be a detective. I think that's my cup of tea. So with the work that we do, sort of across all sort of the county, we have seen sort of an increase in the need for police intervention, and when
police intervention with our young people.
Yes.
Right.
So, and this is obviously quite late at night. It can be...
It's not Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
It's definitely not.
Yeah.
And we know that most of the time, sort of transitions or night times are often quite difficult for the young people and adults that we support, because there is no support during those times. So we found that there was a lot of need for police intervention to ensure the safety of that young person or adult.
So when you say need for police intervention, what does that mean? Does that mean that the young person is in crisis?
Yeah.
Experiencing crisis?
Yeah, experiencing crisis and high levels of distress.
Okay.
And
where they're putting themselves at risk.
Yeah, or
other people.
Not intentionally, though. I think that's really important to make
absolutely,
clear that these aren't intentions of people to go out and say, well, I'm gonna go into crisis tonight and I'm going to need the police.
They're not in control
of ambulance services. It's not a choice. And I think that's what was really clear when starting the work, was that a lot of the time emergency services see it as they're choosing to do this. Or I've had a professional say within a meeting that they're manipulative, and actually they're really not. So we worked really hard to sort of unpick why is there frequent police involvement, and why are we resulting in sort of a section 136 where they're detained by the police for mental health act assessment.
These are young kids.
These are kids,
These are kids.
yeah,
Kids.
within sort of 11 to 16, and above, obviously. And so they, there would be the options of sort of a section 136, a mental health act assessment, being held within a cell for a long, quite a significant amount of time, being arrested, being forcefully restrained.
And it's like repeatedly, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's repeated sort of intervention in that way. We sort of looked at, especially with some of the young people that I support, was let's have a look what is happening. What is the lead up? What could we make better? What could we make safer? And how could we support emergency services, both police and ambulance crews, to support that young person or adult therapeutically within reach? Because obviously we know that if there is a risk to life, they have to contain, they have to control, absolutely. But it's how do we go about that? And
because actually some of the things they're doing in that can actually escalate things.
Absolutely. So in terms of especially an individual with sensory needs, the flashing lights from the police or the ambulance, that's enough. The sounds, the sirens, that is overstimulating as well, isn't it, for them? And when they are in that level of distress, that then makes it sort of a lot more difficult.
So what are some of the things that you've kind of been working with the emergency services on to try and kind of understand that or unpick that?
So because
again, I suppose, is it about making those small changes that we talked about earlier?
Yeah, so we're all looking at the care plans for these young people and then implementing their trigger plans, which is what they call when they need to look at the document quickly when they're responding.
So what's a trigger plan? Just explain that a little bit.
So the trigger plan is a document. Well, it's not even a document. It's just sort of an alert on their systems,
like really
that
quick
shows you
information.
quick information that shows you how best to respond. So, therapeutic language and stuff like that, but showing examples rather than writing therapeutic language, because they'll often it's like, well, what
does that mean?
Because how, what works for this young person. So, and what was really interesting was I was really sort of lucky and appreciative that I was able to go and view some body cam footage from some of these incidents, and just being able to look at the response and how could we make that better. So for our young people, a lot of the time they need to be heard, they need to feel listened to, and they need to feel safe. So that was one of the things that we put on the care plan, was the language you use is, I'm here to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And the least restrictive practice in terms of try not to have hands on and try and de-escalate to support rather, verbally, rather than using sort of that physical restraint.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting, and actually it was a massive lesson to me as well, and I think I learned a lot from it, is that yes, we're saying that, and that's what the young person or adult needs to hear, is we're here to keep you safe, because that's what emergency services do, don't they? It's the safety of the public. But what we saw through the body cam footage was that they had hands on. Somebody was saying, we're here to keep you safe, but we're doing the opposite.
Yeah. So that young person isn't feeling safe.
Yeah. So it was then looking at that and following the process of these incidents whereby it was escalating because it wasn't as quick pace as it needed to be. So, for example, rather than remaining within a public space, if there was a police car there, let's get them straight in if it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
And then it reduces that sort of overwhelm of people passing by, people staring.
It's a safe space for that young person to de-escalate without needing to be touched and overwhelmed.
And, that has just being able to write those care plans in a more person-centred way, I suppose, as well, has reduced the need for police intervention.
Which is amazing. And I guess it enables those individuals who are responding to feel more in control as well, because they've got that plan. They know, what they need to do with that young person. And actually the outcomes have been incredible, haven't they? So
they are. And I think we're all aware that it's not it'll never be sort of a prolonged sense of stability, but if we can try and help that stability for a longer period of time in terms of them understanding their needs or what they need within those moments, we will have much better sort of results, and for them and parents and people around them to understand what they need in those times.
And those doing the responding and communities. It's just I'm really excited to kind of see where this goes. I think you're just scratching the surface with this, and hopefully there'll be many more, people interested in the work that you're doing. What do you think about, because obviously I guess it's what you're having to do almost is have those professionally challenging conversations, which we talked about earlier, maybe with, individuals working in, say in the police, for example, all the services are absolutely stretched. Everybody's kind of working incredibly hard, and I guess training is limited, but actually the systems are quite archaic, aren't they, really? And I guess sometimes when you are professionally challenged, it can feel a little bit like almost it gets you back up almost a little bit, doesn't it? Is that something you've experienced?
Yeah, and I think that will always be the case. And to professionally challenge, it can sometimes be quite oh no, am I saying the right thing? But actually, the end goal is to make have better outcomes for that person. Yeah. So we have to sort of believe in what we're saying, which often is mostly correct because we hear it from the young person or the adult. And I think sometimes, like we said before, people are very stuck in their ways. Yeah. And sometimes it is really difficult for them to accept that sort of professional challenge.
But I guess when you are able to kind of have those challenging discussions and make those changes, and they can see that actually these things work, that's where the real power is, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and I think, for example, I had a conversation recently about professional challenge and how we, as an organisation, have made them realise that actually that's how they want their team to be responding in meetings and not be afraid to challenge professionally. I've seen a difference in terms of we, as a professional network, we were going through a bit of a document, and there was things like in there such as behaviour and words that we wouldn't use or shouldn't be used anyway. And even before sort of I could say anything, the professional network were like, you won't like that, so we'll take it out, we'll replace it with this. So actually it's really powerful to see that other organisations and sort of statutory services are now following what should be worded within documents.
See, I love that, because sometimes, as human beings, we just, have this feeling that what difference am I going to make? I'm just one person, this is just one situation, what difference am I going to make? And I love this kind of notion that actually it's like that ripple effect, isn't it? You throw a pebble into a pond and there is a ripple effect, and you might not always see it at the time, but that's what we're doing at GMT, just ripple by ripple by ripple, kind of having this impact, because, 15 people could have been on that meeting, and then they take that knowledge away, and then they take that, that's how we make change happen. So yeah, I think we'll get you back on here in a year's time and have an update on this, because I'm really excited about
I'll be in a police force.
No, you're not leaving us.
No, I won't really.
Just before we wrap up, I also really wanted to, I'm getting all the information out of you today, Jinny. I really wanted to kind of spend some time speaking about DSR.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you did that really brilliant training, and it wasn't something I knew a huge amount before I started at GMT. Could you just explain to us what DSR is and, what your kind of understanding and involvement is?
I think DSR, so the Dynamic Support Register, I think it's still a tool that is often not heard about.
Not a lot of professionals even know about it, do they?
Don't. I mentioned it the other day to a statutory service in a different locality about the need for a referral, and they were like,
what's a
what
DSR?
That is. And I think that I don't know why, and I don't know what it is, but basically anyone can refer to a DSR, so any professional, and parents can also self-refer.
I bet not many parents know that. I think
No. Currently, the criteria to be accepted onto the DSR is they have to be autistic or have a learning disability. They're the sort of requirements. But why it exists is it's there to prevent hospitalisation, placement breakdown, things sort of similar to that. So it's sort of rated in terms of risk. So they have like red, amber and green. And basically it's a register that is overseen by various different teams down south. The DSR is overseen by the ICB, which is the Integrated Care Board. So the information that's within the DSR, it asks for sort of updates and...
is that the dynamic part of it? The fact that it's like a dynamic list that should be
so
tracked
it's
and regularly reviewed?
So, for example, our cases down south, they are reviewed every sort of 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it's on an ongoing sort of cycle.
And that risk is constantly being...
Yeah, constant. So it is dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is that risk. So if they're a red, it means that we're sort of at immediate risk of an admission, or the risks are just very, very high. So it's overseen by them.
So it's to prevent that admission effectively, isn't it?
And it's to ensure that the community services are all doing what they should be doing, essentially, to support that person to remain within the community. So that's a DSR.
We can probably, in the link of the podcast, add some information about that if people want to find out some more about what the DSR is. We can absolutely kind of put that link in there.
We had a Fifth
Avenue. We do sessions on it.
I did do one recently, actually, around sort of the DSR.
Okay.
So
that parents and carers could access. Yeah. That'll go out on socials at some point. Yeah. So brilliant. Really useful, because I think, not a lot of professionals would be aware of that, and the fact that parents can refer to it as well. I think it's about having these kind of toolkits almost of things that you're aware of that you can utilise. So that's really useful.
There's a lot of sort of NHS guidance around.
Okay.
Time it's the DSR as well.
Okay.
So we could attach that.
Yeah, absolutely, we can attach that. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I feel like I've asked you a million questions today, and I know it's only January and the first podcast of the year, but you and your team and the ISP team are just doing the most incredible work, and the outcomes are just testament to that. So I'm really glad that you've come on today to demonstrate that, really, because people need to know kind of the amazing work that's doing. And if anybody listening to this is interested in any of the work we're doing, then reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to have discussions about our services and how they can be commissioned. So I'm going to have a chat with Jinny and her team. But thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jinny.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's Great Minds Together podcast. If you found this conversation valuable, please share it with others.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
You can learn more about our work and resources at greatmindstogether.co.uk
and follow us on social media for regular updates.
Until next time, keep celebrating difference and driving inclusion.